What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror, your destination for all things horror. I'm AJ.
And I'm Christy.
And y'all, it's February, so you know it is Black History Month. And with that, we wanted to take some time throughout the month to talk about, Black horror, whether it be films, actors and actresses, directors, producers, anything related to Black horror. We wanted to take the opportunity to talk about it this month. And we wanted to start the month off with talking about a film that not a lot of people know about, and that's this film called Abby. It's a film that came out in 1974, and most people don't really know about it because Warner Brothers basically sued them for copyright infringement, and they won that case, and they basically took ownership of all the original prints and everything of this film. So they kind of buried this film, and as such, it's very hard to find, you can't really find a good copy of this film. And if even the way that we watched it was via for free on Plex.
Yeah.
They got it for free with ads on there. And it's this really rough 16 millimeter copy that it's all the detail is lost. The exposure's all jacked. It's still watchable.
Yeah.
You could tell what's going on,
yeah.
but all the details are absent. And that's due to Warner Brothers winning this case. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the film and then kind of explore the question, is Abby actually a ripoff of The Exorcist? So let's start off with, what Abby is and like what that synopsis is, right? So Abby is a blaxploitation horror film that was released in 1974 about an archaeologist and exorcist whose daughter-in-law becomes possessed by a sex demon that he accidentally released while in Nigeria. Now it stars William Marshall, Terry Carter, and Carol Speed. Abby was written and directed by a white man named William Girdler, and Girdler directed 9 feature films in his career from 1972 until his tragic death in 1978. He wrote and directed 3 of those films, including Abby. Abby hit theaters on December 25th and made $4 million in 1 month before Warner Brothers hit them with the copyright infringement.
It was like, these niggas, made $4 million.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They was like, they made, that's basically kind of what it is, right? It's like, dang, they making all this money off of a film that's
very much
that's similar to ours. It has similar story beats and whatnot. So that's kind of the gist of Abby. Now, as we dive into exploring whether Abby is actually a ripoff of The Exorcist or not, we'll be talking about, the similarities and differences. And so with that, we have to talk about spoilers, right? So I would highly suggest y'all go and check out Abby before we get into the spoiler section, just so you can experience the film for yourself for the first time, not knowing what to expect. It's got like the 70s vibes, that blaxploitation vibe is heavy in this film. Very heavily Black culture based. It's almost like a time capsule in a way when you watch some of the aspects of this film. So I highly suggest y'all go in and watch it for yourself, experience it, and then come back and join us for this conversation. Again, you can watch it how we watched it. We watched it for free on Plex.
It's on YouTube as well.
Oh, is it on YouTube too? Okay, so yeah, either Plex for free with ads or YouTube. I'm assuming is it free with ads or is it like a bootleg upload on YouTube?
I've seen some bootleg uploads, but I don't know if they have like a YouTube free, with ads ones as well. But I do know you can.
You can go search it up. So apparently you can go search this film up and just watch it on YouTube as well. So, there's your options. Again, fair warning, it's rough. It's in terms of the copy due to the nature of the case and whatnot. But go check it out and then come back and join us for the conversation on whether or not Abby is a ripoff of The Exorcist. So with that, let's jump into similarities first. So let's talk about the similarities, right? Starting with the fact that it has very similar story beats. So you got, a priest, archaeologist, individual who goes on an expedition.
This is true.
And finds, some sort of, artifact or object that's got some sort of, demonic or at least some evil cultural background to it, right? And it's very samey. Even some of the aspects of like the shots, you know what I'm saying, are kind of similar in some aspects. So what do you got to say about the similarity there?
Well, yeah, it is very similar.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think the priest in The Exorcist was an archaeologist,
like an actual
archaeologist, whereas Dr. Williams was actually an archaeologist and a professor. He wasn't that great of a professor, but he was a professor, in archaeology as well as The Exorcist. But whatever. apples. It's very similar.
Yeah. It's just the nature of, and we'll kind of get into this as we talk about the other aspects of the similarities, but like the nature of how the story flows is like very similar.
Yeah.
And so this takes place early in the film.
Yes.
And it does feel similar. It's not the exact same, but it's just the nature of the story that's similar, right? And then the next kind of obviously similar piece. They're both exorcism based films. So, in Exorcism does take place in Abbey, just like in The Exorcist, but they're not. When we get to the differences, they're not very similar. The line kind of stops at the fact that there's just an exorcism in this film, but in terms of like how they're shown, they're not similar. Yeah, it kind of stops right at the fact that it's an exorcism.
Right.
Now, another similarity when we talk about the story beats, right, is in terms of the flow of the story, in terms of the flow of the progression of the possession, we do get that aspect of where we got like the doctors visiting the house.
This is true.
We got the victim, the possession, the possessed person going to the hospital, getting all these tests done on them that are like very similar, getting the blood checks and all this stuff, and then there's also similar conversations of we can't find nothing wrong with her, and it's like well,
there's a slight difference, but go ahead.
Oh, what's the slight difference?
The slight difference is in The Exorcist, like, the mom was just like, okay, well, at this point, I think I know what the problem is. And that's when she sought out, I forgot his name now. Father, what's his name? The Exorcist in The Exorcist or whatever. And in this movie, in Abbey, the doctor was just like, look, I can't.
Well, that doctor.
It's just this is not my wheelhouse.
Well, because they saw two different doctors, right? You got the hospital doctors.
Yes.
In Abbey, he just suggested seeing a psychiatrist, right? Like this has to be a mental thing because all the physical tests check out. Now that home doctor that would come and visit them and he would give medicine and stuff, he knew. He was like, look, this shit, it ain't in my lane. Like you need some church help. You know what I'm saying? So but the similarity is
the bulk of it is
like this the medical test and the way some of the scenes flowed were very similar.
Yeah.
Now in both instances of both these movies, Abbey and The Exorcist, you get these really like vulgar demons. So Reagan is saying all of this crazy shit
stuff.
and The Exorcist, and so is Abbey in this film. They're both using a bunch of expletives and provocative stuff, and but that is just that's where the similarity stops in terms of like what they do.
Yeah.
Now another similarity that they had was the fact that the demon that is possessing, like their face pops up a lot in the film. Now in The Exorcist, the Pazuzu demon, his face doesn't pop up as much, but in Abbey, and it's never really clear exactly which demon it is. At one point he says that he's Eshu, but apparently he's really not. But that face popped up a lot in this movie. It's like they took that inspiration from The Exorcist and then just like turned it up, dialed it up a notch.
Yeah, and it also like near the end, it started to look more like Abbey. It was just the same color.
Yeah,
but in the earlier stages, it was clearly it was like this weird looking, almost remind me of like the genie or something, the way it was looking.
It was very weird.
But anyway, it looked like whatever it was. And then near the end, when it was like, I guess it's most powerful, I guess you want to say, it started to look more like Abbey, like it was taking on her completely at that point in time.
Right.
So I would say that would be different. Like, I don't think we ever saw anything like that.
Yeah, we didn't see the demon be more than just a face.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have like an evolution or anything like that. With Abbey, it seemed like this demon was getting stronger the more kills that it got. So I feel like that's what the similarity kind of stops with the fact that the style is just very similar with the face flashing and stuff like that. They've got a very similar vibe, and just the way this presented and shot is very similar. Even some of the scenes where they like transition and do like the exposure stuff was similar to like The Exorcist and the trailers that it had and stuff like that. So like in terms of the presentation of it, like some of those aspects were similar. Yeah. And then of course you just got like the whole family like fighting to save the possessed person. And I feel like that's pretty much all the similarities for the most part, because even the way they defeat the demons different.
Yeah. The approach is different.
Yeah.
You know, we got 2 exorcists in The Exorcist. We just got Daddy Williams in the Abbey movie. Also think there's others like very like not cultural, maybe societal differences as well. Like I feel like in The Exorcist it's like about this girl being corrupted, you know, this young girl being corrupted by society and stuff like that. And in the Abbey, it's more like you have this wholesome Black woman, you know, she goes to church, she sings in the choir,
right? Yep.
You know, and then she's out there in the world, you know, doing God knows what with God knows who type of thing. So it's like they have like those different nuances as well. So I think that, like you said, those other ones we just talked about, I think that's it. Everything else is completely different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, 100% agree. So with that, let's jump into the differences that Abbey and the Exorcist have. So the first main difference that we have is the fact that, you know, the exorcism is heavily, you know, Catholicism based, while Abbey is more of the, you know, Yoruba style of Christianity to some extent. So of course we got, you know, the main family that's being affected. They seem like they just go to like a regular Christian service church, but you know, the father, the main character, well, I said main character, but you know, the dad, who's the archaeologist and minister, even when he performs the exorcism, he's, you know, performing like an African style
He's got his
of Christianity
garb on, his hat. I don't even know what the thing is called, but you know, like you see like the old pictures of people like African kings and whatnot. Yeah, they have bell, and then they have like the stick with the sweeping thing on the end of it. He had that, you know, like different stuff that is connected to like that Nigerian based culture.
Right. Yeah. And so I feel like that's like a major difference, right? And I mean, you know, obviously the film is inspired by The Exorcist, and then but they took a different approach. It's like, oh, we're going to approach the exorcism and the possession from this angle, you know? Now we kind of already mentioned it earlier with the fact that, you know, you got Pazuzu in The Exorcist, and then, you know, this wannabe Eshu in Abbey. But they are, you know, those 2 demons have 2 very different like backgrounds. You know, you got one that's like a, you know, Yoruba sex demon, and one that's Mesopotamian. I think he's supposed to be like a demon of wind or something like that, some sort of force or something like that. So, you know, they're different. They got, you know, different personalities, different backgrounds. You know, obviously they are both trying to, you know, destroy and, you know, corrupt and stuff like that.
Right.
But they have a different cultural basis. Their foundation is a little bit different. Now, another big difference is like how the possession occurs. Right. So how they possess, you know, Abby and Reagan are very different, because in The Exorcist, you know, Reagan was playing with the Ouija board, and she, you know, ends up making this friend. Opens up the door.
She opened up the door herself.
Yep. She opened up the door. Now, with Abby, her possession honestly didn't even make no sense whatsoever.
It doesn't
because
make sense.
1, she didn't even do nothing, and then 2, you know, that
it was released in Nigeria,
and it's not like, you know, you would think that when it got released, like it would kind of hang out around. You know, Williams' character. I can't remember his name for some reason.
I just call him Dr. Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, the actor?
No.
Yeah.
So was the character's name was Dr. Williams?
Yes. Was it?
It was? I honestly can't remember.
Okay, it's either his first name or his last name was Williams for sure. I don't know which one it was, but I know he was a doctor, and the kids was calling him Dr. Williams.
Yeah. So, but you know, so Dr. Williams, he opens up, you know, this artifact in Nigeria, and you know, I liked how they did it. Like all this wind was going crazy, blowing everybody everywhere, which signified its release.
Yes.
Right. But somehow it made it all the way back to the U.S., specifically to his son's house with his son and daughter-in-law. And she randomly gets possessed. Got possessed. Yeah. It was like random. She was in the shower, and
I think, wasn't it the actual possession taking place when it came through the house?
Oh, you think it happened with that initial like wind blow?
Right.
But I don't think it had possessed her yet. Though.
Okay, that's probably it just got in the house.
Yeah, because you got that scene.
But it actually possessed her in the shower.
I think Yeah,
enjoying
she had a whole moment with her and this demon, which is it was weird.
Yeah, it was.
But those possession dynamics are completely different. And again, with that, the actual the people that get possessed, you got one who's just like you said, wholesome, church going black woman, and then this other one is just a young white girl who is innocent. She's underage, like what I'm saying. Like this is more like Exorcist is more like the corruption of innocence from the viewpoint of like it being a child.
Yeah,
and then this one's just more like the corruption of a woman and her lifestyle, like trying to ruin like marriage and her life. You know what I'm saying? And you could still take the aspect of like corrupting the holy. You know what I'm saying? She seemed like she's very holy.
The holy, corrupting black feminism, a lot of stuff you can kind of take from that.
Corrupting black feminism, how you get that?
Well, just like black women, I guess I should say, like a viewpoint of black women, because we all know, historically speaking, right, black women are viewed as over sexualized, right? Like that's been proven time and time again.
Right.
Back way like slavery times, we've always been viewed that way. And so you have this nice church going woman who's married, and the mama kept always talking about, it's such a blessing to find be a good have a good husband and a good life and serving the Lord and stuff like that. And it's kind of like black women can't be that. They have to be this, you know what I'm saying? Because we're over sexualized. I feel like you can go deeper with that, but this is not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the Exorcist.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, so those corruption angles are different, and what they're based in is different. And with that, for the Exorcist, Reagan for the most part is isolated to the house.
True.
She doesn't go nowhere.
This is true.
Yeah. Where with Abby, that possession, she's
streets.
like out and like almost like serial killer mode in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like she's out and like, racking up kills and stuff like that.
She is. You know what? I just thought about it. It's a lot like that show Evil. Because not just contained to that one main character, but when the mom starts like getting in cahoots with the other guy, and they were like bringing the men back to kill him and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, in some ways, yeah, that's similar. Yeah.
Sorry, I went off on the side.
Yeah, we talking about we went off and talked about the show Evil, y'all, because I've been taking her back through the seasons because she hadn't. I'm trying to get it caught up before the new season drops for Evil. It's a dope show if you haven't watched it. But yeah, so she she's out and being super provocative, effing, having sex with people and killing people, and
she's doing the most.
She's just doing a whole lot. Like she's out. That demon got her out in the streets heavy.
Yeah.
And of course, the last piece is just the fact that Abby is heavily blaxploitation type of.
Oh
film.
yes,
like,
very
yeah,
but I love it.
Right, yeah, that cultural sense is like heavy, like there's so much relatability to it. And I think that's another difference, right? Because of that factor, there's a lot of like comedy to it.
It is.
Even I think unintentional comedy.
Oh, okay.
I think some of that stuff is unintentional.
I thought
because we were looking at it
I guess
being able to relate to some of the things that are being said.
Yes,
and
right. That's what it's
the
all
cultural
about.
background.
Being
so
relatable,
like,
right.
A lot of it is more funny because like when I look at these two films, The Exorcist feels way more serious than Abby does. Abby is very much like it feels almost more light in its darkness.
Right, yeah, because it's not scary.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It doesn't have any scariness whatsoever. It has a lot of humor, but I feel like the humor can be taken both ways. Like there's some stuff that she says that have me cackling, but I'm wondering, like you said, like was that intentional to be funny? Or not?
I think a lot of it wasn't intended to be funny.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just think that because we're looking at it from the angle of seeing the black culture represented so genuinely, that it's almost funny because you're just not used to seeing it, in a movie. You know what I'm saying? And it does feel like the dialogue feels very like authentic. You know what I mean?
I kept thinking the same thing. I thought that's the very same thing. I was like, oh wow, this seems like real life,
like
right
a real
here.
people. Yeah, they feel like real people.
Yeah.
But so I feel like that even more furthers those two films because of that factor. Where like one's a little bit more lighthearted, not as dark, but this other one is like way darker, way more
serious,
like scary. And it also feels like the stakes are higher. Like because like that. I think because that the Exorcist is more serious, it feels like the stakes are higher too. Whereas like I never felt like Abby was gonna die. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have that feeling. Whereas with Reagan, you're like, damn, like because of the visible physical ailments, you're like, damn, he killing this girl for real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's true.
Even just the way that the possession presented itself didn't feel as harsh in Abby. And I feel like that also just keeps them very different because it's not.
Well, I think it was, like you said, it wasn't as harsh, but to her physically, but I think on the outside it was kind of jacked up. Like she killed the lady. Yeah, the lady had a heart attack, and she was very like overboard when it came to how we talked about a little bit about that when we talked about how vulgar the demon was, but how she talked to her family and her friends, and she's supposed to be a preacher's wife, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the things she's doing she can't be doing now,
now she can't be doing all that stuff.
So but physically it didn't affect her the way Reagan was affected by her demon, but outwardly she was gone.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like, well, let's go into that, right? So that we talked about the similarities, talk about the differences. Is there anything else you wanted to add for differences?
No.
I feel like we covered all of the kind of the main, the main parts of it. You know what I'm saying? With that, let's jump into like our, conclusion of this. Starting off with like, we'll talk about where we sit as far as, is it a ripoff? And then we'll talk about just like our actual thoughts, not a full review, but just our thoughts on the film itself, on Abby.
Okay.
So I'll let you go first.
Why you always make me go first?
Okay. Well, you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
It's up to you.
All right. Well, I guess I'm on the fence about it, right? Because like I've tried to look at it. I've tried to be devil's advocate and look at it from the point of view of me being in 1974, and I don't really know like film history that well to say, there were other films like this. I don't know. And I'm also looking at it because I think there was an interview done with one of the production managers, and he was like, there's hundreds of not hundreds, but a lot of World War II movies or whatever, movies that are similar. So can you put copyright infringement on someone making a similar movie to you?
Right.
But I don't know, like at that time, was there other films like The Exorcist out?
Oh, right. Yep.
So maybe this was the first time a movie came to theaters that was very similar to this style of movie. And so if I'm looking at it from that viewpoint, it's possible that I could be like, oh yeah, they're definitely copying us. Like we only take them to court.
Right.
But on the other side of that, it's like, but that's what film is, right? Like you take inspirations from other films, and that's how you progress forward and make other films. It expands, it grows, and I feel like this is an expansion of The Exorcist. It's not like a direct copy of it. I do like your point, like you made earlier about like some of the story beats are very similar, so that's kind of why I'm like 50-50. Because I'm thinking, if I was the judge and you showed me these two movies, how would I have voted to say, okay, yeah, this is very much alike? Because I'm like, how did they win this case? Because there are a lot of differences. But I'm trying to say, what would I have thought in 1974 when I saw this movie? Right. So I don't really know.
Okay. All right.
So what do you think?
So for me, I feel like I definitely lean on the side that it's not a ripoff of The Exorcist, because my biggest thing is they're suing on the premise of like copyright infringement, right? So then you got to think about like, okay, what is copyright infringement?
Yeah.
Usually that's like you're using, a character, or like, it's like something that is, the exact same, where you're using something from, something else. Whether it's like a character or it's the same, even if it's the same story, I don't think you can, use that as a premise of like, oh, this is, copyright
that's
infringement,
true.
unless it is the exact same, where like almost scene for scene, maybe you can make that argument. And I haven't done research on, copyright when it comes to films and the story of a film. But I feel like unless it's like unless you were to play these movies side by side and the
Everything
scenes
was
were
exactly
flowing
the
the
same,
exact
yeah.
same, it was just different people in those spots. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Then I feel like you could make the argument, oh, this is a copyright infringement because like the only difference is they used a different character, but they're telling literally the exact same story, which, you could argue that you're stealing the story from us. You know what I'm saying? But because they're not the exact same, I feel like it would be hard, I feel like, to make the argument of like, oh, this is copyright infringement. Now, to your point, it could have been that, people weren't copying as closely, back then. I can't really say for sure, but I feel like they were, because we hear all the time about people, using similar shots and stuff from different films, and even similar, types of, horror films and stuff like that. So I feel like they were borrowing. I just think that, maybe because, and I gotta look at the timeline, like when The Exorcist came out versus when Abby was the timeline.
1 year prior.
Oh, it was.
Because, they came out, Exorcist came out December 1973, and Abby came out December 1974.
Yeah, see, and I feel like that probably added to the feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's like, damn, we just released this movie last
Right.
year, and here's this movie that's similar,
Yeah.
coming out, you know
And
what I'm
the
saying?
director he didn't say, like, we copied this movie,
Yeah.
but he did there's a quote of him saying, we definitely were writing the shirt tails of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But I took it more as, like, they were successful with this movie, and they were like, oh, well, let's make an Exorcist type of movie and see how successful we can be with it.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like too. I feel like it definitely felt inspired by.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They were like, oh, this is a good idea, but what if we gave it this spin?
Yeah.
What if it was, more black focused or had an African type of demon? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I definitely think that it felt more inspired by, and they went into a totally different direction in terms of like, how the demon affected, the character and what that character did and that type of stuff. So like, I feel like it's different enough to where even like the scare value is different. Like, with Reagan being locked into the bed and the exorcism being like super performative, you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't feel the same. Like you could see certain things. You could see the moments where it was inspired by. It was like, oh, that medical scene feels like the one from The Exorcist. Oh, that face popping up is like The Exorcist. But I feel like you can see that for any films. Like,
That's true.
Where it's like they were the first to do something. And it's like, oh, like that works. You know what I'm saying? So like, let me give you an example. Like found footage, right? Whatever the first film ever was to do found footage, which I can't remember what it was.
I forgot even.
But they started a new subgenre essentially, right? So it's like, oh, that's a good idea to shoot it like that. I'm gonna shoot my movie like that now too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That concept of, oh, the way you presented that was very cool. I want to try that and then do it a little bit differently. And I feel like that's what this movie did. I feel like it wasn't. When we finished it, I didn't feel like, dang, like
that was just like The Exorcist.
That was just like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Nah, like there's moments where I was like, okay, like
I can see that.
Yeah, especially with it being 1 year release apart. I didn't know they were that close.
Maybe
I
that
knew they were
was
in the same
the problem.
few years. What you say?
I said maybe that was the problem.
I think so.
They
it was
released
just
it
so
too
close where it's like, oh, they probably felt like, oh, you're stealing money from us. 'Cause I know back then in the day, like movies set in theaters a
for a
lot
long time.
longer, like,
Yeah.
for a long time. So maybe they felt like, oh, you're taking money from our plate. Using a movie has a similar style to ours,
Yeah.
a similar beat to ours. And I think it's just a product of that time, because nowadays we see ripoffs all the time. Every time, think about the B movie scene, right? Every time a movie comes out, like they got the B movie version of it that drops like near when that came out.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw recently, like around the time Godzilla vs. Kong came out, there was like a, well, I forgot what it's called. It was something stupid like Ape versus Mecha Ape or it's something really dumb.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But that happens a lot where like the B movie takes, the style.
What was that? Is it the Freddy's Nightmares or something like that? Where they had like there's another similar movie that's like Five Nights at Freddy's. It's called something like that.
Oh, what are you talking about? Yeah, there was a B movie style of
Something
that
like
too.
that, yeah.
You're right, and it was called something like that,
Something,
like
I can't
Freddy's
remember the name
Nightmare
of
or
it.
something like that.
But yeah,
So like,
that's something that's always
nowadays what Abby did is completely normal.
Yes.
It's normalized nowadays,
Right.
And I feel like it was just because of that era that they were in, and it being so close, and them and maybe it just not happening as frequently because back then I'm sure it took a lot more to make a movie. Now anybody can make a movie. You can make a movie off your phone. You know what I'm saying? So now that everyone has the access, they can do the inspired by stuff, no problem. It's just a different time, I think. I feel like if that
product of the times.
Yeah, it's just a product of the times, right? So yeah, I've definitely leaned on the side that it didn't rip it off. It was just very much inspired by, like, this is our take on that style of exorcism film. But yeah, that's how we feel about it. Y'all let us know in the comments. Do you think Abby is a ripoff of The Exorcist, right? So with that, let's jump into our quasi review of this movie. I can go first if you want me to. CJ said I always make you go first.
Yeah, go ahead, baby.
So for me, I thought this movie was pretty good. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of things I wish they had did differently. Like, I do wish it had, a little bit more scare factor to it. But I understand, like, that's the way the blaxploitation stuff went. Like, it wasn't meant to be like ultra scary or anything like that. But I wish it was. You know what I mean? Like, I wish it did have a little bit more, heaviness and darkness. But just like with any other blaxploitation films, like, I love seeing like the black culture of that time. Like, I don't know why, it's just super interesting to see like how black people lived in those times, especially when you have like the backdrop of, this was only like a decade after like civil rights and stuff like that. Like, when I think about stuff like that, it's like, damn, like, that's so crazy to think about. And even when we were watching this movie and there happened, like, white people popped up and stuff, we were like
expecting something different to happen.
Like when he stole the car, I was like, oh shit, like he stole that white woman's car. Like that ain't good. So like, it's just interesting to see. And then naturally you compare your lifestyle to theirs. Like, we still eat chicken like that too. That chicken look, like some chicken from the day type. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he said something about 50 Cent. I forgot what he said.
Oh yeah, he said he ate, you want 50 Cent. He's like, oh no, we need that for the church or something like that. So now, I don't know. It's like a time capsule, right? Like, it's just interesting to see. So I always like seeing that aspect of like, how black people was living because it felt very genuine and authentic. I liked some of the special effects with like the wind blowing around and
her like whooping their asses.
Like, right, yeah, like a little superpower, like throwing them around, and I overall just like the idea of the movie. I thought it was really cool. I wish the demon thing looked a little bit better. Considering this came out a year later, obviously they made this on a super tight budget, and they probably just had to work with what they had. They couldn't make it scary, you know what I mean? So like I'm understanding that aspect, but I do wish like the demon looked creepier and. The scare moments just felt scary. Even some of the performance elements of like, going after somebody, I wish felt differently. Like how she went after that dude in church and was like, I don't know if she was like hitting him or hitting him on the ground. Like, I don't know. It just felt weird. You know what I'm saying? So I do wish that some of those angles were a little bit like different. But for it to just be like, an exorcism movie, a possession movie. Like, I liked it. You know what I'm saying? I definitely like it's a fun movie. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's the thing with like these types of like some of these blaxploitation films is like it's meant to like have a fun angle to it while also having like the undertone commentary, social commentary and stuff like that. And I feel like that was all there in this. And I feel like it's definitely like that's a good time movie. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely not like serious, you know what I'm saying? To be honest though, after watching it, I was like, damn, like I want to see somebody do like a remake on this. Like, I feel like if you could pull it off in today's times and use today's like social commentary to like go into like what you were talking about and then make it more like blend it all really good. I think somebody could do something really hard with this film. So I know I'm not gonna like rate it or anything, but like, do I recommend it? 100%. Like, I 100% recommend somebody to watch this film, especially if you like the blaxploitation like style of films and you like possession films. I think this is a fun one to watch. There's a lot of funny shit in this movie too, like just general commentary, especially when she's talking. There's that part when the husband walked in trying to use scripture before he's trying to get freaky.
Yeah,
like there's some funny stuff in this movie. Like that shit we was cracking up. It was funny.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's like, I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it was hilarious. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it's a good time. Like definitely recommend it. Go check it out on YouTube or the Plex free movies, however you want to watch it, go check it out. That's my thoughts though.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts. It was definitely a good movie. It was funny, like you said, hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, we was laughing a lot.
Whether intended or unattended, the movie is funny. I mean, it is what it is.
And what's the actor's name?
Oh, the
William something.
I can't remember.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
William Marshall.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Boy, I tell you, he is something else. Like, he got that voice.
He's smooth.
He got some swag.
Yeah, he's smooth.
I loved him in this movie.
Yeah.
I have never seen Blackula, but I do want to watch it after watching this.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, we definitely got to watch Blackula now.
100%.
Because he got some serious swag.
Yeah, he do. He did. He did.
I loved him in this. I thought the main character too, I think her name was Carol Steed or Sneed. Speed. Thank you. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah.
And I did read a little bit about her, like talking about the movie, and she said like, she really went there, and I think she really did, because there were some good shots of her, like where the camera was like right under her face, and she's like looking down and like attacking whoever she's attacking. But like she really went there. I was like, she acted the mess out of it.
She went for it. Yeah, 100%.
So those performances were my standout performances within the movie. And I mean, I think the husband, he did okay, and I like the mama. I feel like she was a genuine Black mama. Like the way she talked. Obviously, like you said, it's set in the 70s, so it's got like that old school style, and the dialogue is very old school, and just the way that they're talking, and like you're like, we don't talk like this anymore. But so it was like really cool to see like them talking like this, like Black people talking like this, Black doctors, like this is like awesome. It's an awesome movie,
right?
Like you said, it's not the best movie out, obviously, but it's still worth watching, and it's a good time. And I just like the story as well. Like I always say I don't like possession films, but I feel like I might be lying about that, and I actually do, because a lot of my favorite movies are possession films.
I feel like when it comes to horror, like, there's a lot of possession movies.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. But I do like this film for what it is. I like the story, I like the approach, I like the style, I was like the music scenes, like there weren't short music scenes. Like these people was dancing, having a good time for at least 3 to 5 minutes. And it was like good to witness. So I personally suggest watching this film if you've never seen it. Obviously, if you've never seen it, I don't know why you're watching the spoiler review, unless you like to be spoiled. But yeah, go watch it if you haven't watched it. It's really good. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, that's how we feel about whether or not Abby is a ripoff of The Exorcist. Y'all let us know down in the comments again whether you think Abby is a ripoff or not. And then, let us know your basis for either reason so we can discuss that. And then if you've seen the film, like, what are your thoughts on it? And hopefully maybe one day, Warner Brothers can drop like the actual original print. So
that would be nice.
We can get a higher quality version, because I feel like that might actually even improve the movie more, because then we can see the details. So a lot of detail is lost in this version, which I think hurts maybe the overall feel, the impact of this movie. So we can get that original print and maybe get like a 4K re-release. Like, I think that might take it, a long way. And then two, would y'all want to see a remake of this movie? I think this movie has a lot of potential in the remake department, where they could really retell the story in a modern day and make it really good. So y'all let us know all your thoughts down in the comments below on all things related to Abby. And what you'd like to see in the future, whether it be the OG copy getting released or a remake. With that, y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in to to this video or this podcast, however you're listening to it. Make sure y'all like, make sure y'all share, make sure y'all comment. Then of course make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on all things horror. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.